England got involved in the Boer War in 1888, he didn't hesitate to enlist, and even though he was only 14 years old, he really wanted to serve his country, and back in those days they didn't turn you away. They knew he was too young, but they saw he wanted to serve, and so he did not. That part really intrigues me because I'm trying to think of my...
He must have been big for his age too as well, I guess.
Well, I'm not sure, but even if he was, I'm fast forwarding today. I have a 12-year-old daughter, almost 12, and I have a 9-year-old son. I couldn't even imagine letting my 14-year-old son, in this case a son, go off to war, because that war was fought predominantly in two parts of the world, India and South Africa. Some people call it the South African War because a lot of the war was fought in South Africa, but the official name is the Boer War. But his parents gave no hesitation. They felt it was the honorable thing to do. You're serving your country when anything that may compromise your freedom or your quality of life, you're to step up and serve your country, and that's kind of how he viewed things. And I know it with great honor he served, and then again in World War I, or the Great War. Most World War I veterans, if you want to show your respect, as I've come to know, you refer to it as the Great War, not World War I. It's only become known World War I because there was World War II, so it's as a point of reference. But really, as a point of respect, most vets from World War I, the few that are remaining, would see respect if a younger person refers to it as the Great War. And my dad was born into that legacy, and he served in World War II. And it's interesting. He also did not hesitate to enlist, and I think he felt some peer pressure. His dad was a strong person, and I think if my dad had been to war at age 14 and again at age 40, hardened by war and all the ravages that go along with that, I think if he suggested I should enlist when World War II came around, I probably would do it as well. There was a sense of duty and honor, and it was almost dishonoring to the family if he did not enlist. I think he also wanted to too. It wasn't like he went kicking and screaming, but I think he was influenced heavily by my grandfather that was the right thing to do, and particularly since at that point, they had long since moved to Canada, and like a lot of people, they moved to Canada for a better life, and we're starting to enjoy the privileges that we still enjoy today in Canada, but it didn't come without a cost, and now it was his turn, just like his father had served, to protect one of the Commonwealth countries, Canada being one of them. And nobody likes to go to war, but we've worked hard to get where we're at. We've come to this country, and if we want to keep that way of life that we've worked hard to get, we may have to fight for it at some point, World War II being an example of that. So my dad enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force, and but he told me that he did work in a couple of different aircraft, one including the Lancaster. I remember him telling me that even though you were trained in a specific discipline, in his case working the radio, you had to at least have a basic understanding of the other two primary functions in your aircraft. In his case, the other two primary functions being the pilot and the gunner. You didn't have to be proficient because you spent most of your time perfecting your trade, which was the radio. But the idea was, if you learned the other two, if one of your comrades was killed on a mission, for example, if somebody shot the pilot and the plane's still flying, you're going to all die unless one of you knows how to land the airplane. Okay, so you didn't have to know all these other tricks and maneuvers. You just needed to know how to fly it, get back to where you're going, and be able to land it, or take off if need be as well. And as the gunner, you needed to at least have a working knowledge of how to work the gun, more or less in a self-defense. Not if something happened to the gunner, as my dad would tell me, you would abort the mission. You wouldn't continue on, and then the wireless guy then becomes an offensive type gunner. You weren't trained as such, so you wouldn't be much of use. So you would return to your base. Since my son was 3, my daughter was 5. That's about the time I started. I figured that was when they were old enough they could talk. And I can remember one Remembrance Day. I believe it was the year my son was 4, and my daughter had just turned 7, and we went to a cold Remembrance Day service at the Cenotaph in Windsor, downtown Windsor. It was well attended. It was sunny and bright, but cold. Being little children, they were uncomfortable with the cold. I bribed them as we walked. I parked my car near my office. I worked downtown. for the police service. We walked, and they were already cold when we got there, and that service hadn't started. So I bribed them with hot chocolate. I said, look, I just want you to sit through this. I want you to see how important this service is, and there's a hot chocolate waiting for you in my office after this, and cookies. Okay, that's all I needed. The kids were very, very good. At the end of the service, or towards the end of the service, I told them, I said, no, we're not just going to bolt out of here at the end of the service. As soon as the service is wrapped up, we're going to go over and we're going to shake a few hands of veterans. Which ones are the veterans? It'll be obvious they're the ones wearing the blue blazers with the medals and their hats, their berets, and the poppies, okay. And we're going to shake a few hands, and even though we don't know these people personally, we have a connection with them, and we're going to thank them for their service to our country. And I want you to realize that what these veterans did has a lot to do with the lifestyle we enjoy today. So when the service ended, we went. I can remember going to shaking 5 or 6 World War II veterans' hand, introducing